And we are going to take another form of factoring on today. Sometimes you are not going to have a common number or a common variable that we can take out of everything. It's going to happen quite often, actually. And so what we're going to do today is start our work towards that. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to just follow this along. We'll add a little something here and there. So, yep, we're finishing off this page of the notes. So set up two sets of parentheses with an X at the start of each one. Okay, why do I do it that way? Why are we doing the X at the start of each one? Because, remember, when we multiply, which is what having these two sets of parentheses together would mean, you're going to add exponents. So x to the first and x to the first, there's the x to the second. So that part's taken care of here at the very beginning. Here's the part that gets a little more interesting. To find the numbers that are going to go in these other two spots, we got to find numbers that will multiply to get C, what the heck, and add to get B. Okay, what in the heck does that mean? So here, I'm going to write something, but we're going to label it better down here. So here's what that means. C is the last number that you see in here, the 12. The 12 is our C in this case. And the number that's in front of X is going to be your B value. So here's what my job is. I need to find a pair of numbers that multiply to 12, but will add up to 7. Okay? Now, if you think of it right off the bat, awesome. If you don't, we have help. So the chart that we had here before that we were using can come in handy on this too. Because now I can look at these and say, okay, here's all my possible combinations that multiply to 12, and I just got to go through and go, that doesn't add up to 7. That doesn't add up to 7. Ooh, but that does. So 3 and 4 are the magic numbers, and since everything here is plus, we just put pluses in with those. We're done. We're factored. Just that quick. So not bad. Not bad at all. And the only difference between that and when we're going to solve is, number one, it'll say, and solve. And number two, there's going to be an equal 0 there, which means we actually have to find the answers. The B is still in the... Ooh. Okay, so my C is negative 20. What is my B value? I don't see a number there. Yeah, this is going to be like it's negative 1. So the number right in front, take the sign with. So I'm like, okay, let's see here. X. Now this is a little more interesting. And here's why. When the C value is negative, okay, let's actually do this. If you have a positive C value, okay, your signs are going to be both plus, or they're both going to be minus. I'll explain how we determine that in a minute. Okay, hang on. If it's a negative C value, and this is, one of your numbers is going to be positive, and one of your numbers is going to be negative. So here's where things change a little bit. Yes, the numbers are still going to add up to negative 1, and they're going to multiply to negative 20. So let me get my little chart out here. You're like, Hardy, there is no way. There is. Find the two numbers that are 1 apart from each other. 1 and 20, not one apart from each other. 2 and 10, not one apart from each other. 4 and 5 are. So now here's the deal. Since my b is -1, the bigger of the two numbers has to be negative. So we're going to do -5 and +4. So let's go back and double check and make sure we're right. 4 times -5 is -20. But if I add the same two numbers, -5 plus 4 is -1. Where you put signs matters. You may have to play with it a little bit. So you're like, that's kind of weird, Hardy, because you're telling me to add 4 plus 5 doesn't equal 1. But with the signs, it does. And so once we figure out that little puzzle, since the solve part is here, we're going to do this the same as we've been doing a little bit earlier in the unit. Each set of parentheses, we're going to set equal to 0, and we're going to solve the mini equations. So just quick 1 or 2 step equation. Well, they'll all be 1 steps actually today. And I believe, I'm going to double check, I believe it is. I don't think there's a whole lot of notes here. We are going to do several examples together though, to make sure we're on the right track, but let me make sure I'm... Nope, this is the only 2 in the notes today. So I'll get this updated and up on Classroom again, so we can make sure that we're staying updated with those. Keep these handy. We will bring them back in a moment. So now we are going to be dealing with some factoring here on this is page 11, but we're going to be working with 11 and 12. This is one of those things that we're going to need all the practice we can get. Once you get through geometry and into Algebra 2, there will be rarely a unit you see in Algebra 2 that does not have factoring in it. So that's why we really got to make sure that we've got this nailed so we don't get ourselves into trouble later. So, we're going to, if you signed up for it, you could. 100%. I want to make sure... I'm kind of looking to see if I was specifically recommending something for you. Yeah, I'd recommend that you do that. Give it a shot. Yeah. Okay, let's start with these 3, and then we'll kind of see where we're at. Okay. First things first, I would keep labeling stuff, at least for today. So there's my B, there's my C. Get my parentheses. Let me get my X's. Okay, let me make mention of something here at the very start. Because when we were doing this part, I said, hey, if it's plus C, that's a positive. They can both be plus or they can both be minus. You're like, okay, well, how the heck am I supposed to tell? The sign in the middle will tell you. So here, since everything is plus, okay, these are both going to be plus. So I need 16. I need 2 numbers that add up to 8. 4 and 4. 4 and 4.
Wait, so they're going to add up to something, or are they going to be like one of these?
If the signs are the same, they're going to add up to that number. If the signs are different, that's how far away from each other they're going to be. That's why we're going to do several examples so you can see all this in action.
Oh, 16. Wait, I don't get it.
Okay, so positive 4 times positive 4 is 16.
Oh, okay.
But 4 plus 4, positive 4 and positive 4 add up to 8. But we are going to have to play with some of this a bit, because now when we get to number 7, here's a good example of what I mean. So this time I get started and I'm like, all right, parentheses up, x, x. It's plus, Hardy. Okay, that's great, but the sign in the middle is minus. Actually, I'm going to do something here. I'm going to write us a note. Look at sign in the middle. Because here, since that's a minus or a negative in the middle, these are both going to be negative. You're like, now wait a minute, Hart. I thought we said that the C value is positive. It is. Well, what the heck? What's negative times negative? Positive. So that can happen. So just like up in number 1, the sign in the middle was positive, we made them both positive. Now here, my C value is positive. That tells me these are both going to be negative. The only time you'll get one of each is if the C value is negative, which is, again, why we have this to help us and why it's important to write it down. So now, you're like, okay, so we need two numbers that multiply to 17 and add to 18. Well, you really don't have much of a choice. 1 and 17, they add to 18. It's true. Negative 1 plus negative 17 is negative 18. I'm pretty darn. Negative 1 plus negative 17 is negative 18. Negative 1 times negative 17 is positive 17. I'm good. I made it. I survived. So that's the one thing to look for when your C value is positive. Okay. But the other thing that can come up, let me come down a little further, is something like 21. 21, 16. I'm looking at that number and telling you that's what it is. Yeah, I saw that 21 and I said 21. I meant 16. So here, now this time, my C value is negative. So, if my C value is negative, we're going to have one of each sign. So when that happens, and I go to look at my chart, and I'm like, okay, so 21, I got to get to 4. In this case, it's that they're going to be 4 apart from each other, and 3 and 7 are. So I'm going to use 3 and 7. Does it matter where I put them? Yes. Because this is always the sign of the bigger number. So if I know my two numbers are 7 and 3, the negative has to go with my 7, because if I add those up now, 3 plus negative 7, that's negative 4. And 3. It depends on what the sign in the middle is. Because you can, let's double down. Let's do 15 right next to it. Sure. You get 7 back up for a minute. Okay. The biggest thing with factoring is figuring out signs, to be honest. The back of the packet. The back of your note packet. I just ripped mine off. So this time, I'm like, okay, C is a negative. It's one of each sign. Got it. The sign in the middle is positive. So you're like, okay, 9, we got to be 8 apart. So 1 and 9, they're 8 apart. That's the sign of the bigger number. So 9 gets the positive, because 9 and negative 1 equals positive 8. And 9 times negative 1 equals negative 9. That's the thing that gets people stressed out, why they call this, in Algebra 2, sometimes we call it the Algebra 2 F word, because it ticks people off. Like, I'm gonna say that on video. The F word. There it is, factoring, that's it. So, as we're doing these, getting used to figuring out the signs is going to be our biggest challenge, probably. Now, on the back, I'm just looking, I want to do a couple of these. we'll do 17 and 15. Yep, that's good. That's a good route. Okay. First things first. All right, let's see here. Let's get our, there's a 1 there, so that's B. My C, again, take signs with.
So it'd be 20 and 1.
Well, let's see. So here, since that's negative, we're going to have 1 of each sign. When you have 1 of each sign, that's telling you that the two numbers are going to be that far apart from each other. 1 and 20 are not 1 apart from each other. 2 and 10 are not 1 apart from each other. 4 and 5 are 1 apart from each other. So I know the two numbers. So now, which one is which? That's the sign of the bigger one. So the 5 gets the positive, the 4 gets the negative. Because again, I can even check if I want to. And if I screw up the signs, I just flip them. Is 5 plus negative 4 get me the number in the middle? It does. Does 5 times negative 4 get me the number on the outside? It does.
So
And the only difference on the back is, since that equals 0 is there, we're just going to set those equal to 0 and solve my two little mini equations.
can't you just do it in your head and it's just gonna be the opposite from
You absolutely can. If you remember that and you remember it's just going to be the opposite number, I am fully for you, and I don't even care if we put them down there. I'm just circling them here. Yeah, when that minus gets in there, that does cause some trouble.
So when it's on so when the minus or positive on the left side, the positive on the other side.
It all depends on what that sign is. That's the thing about factoring. It's not a definitive, it's this, because it depends. It really does, especially with the minus in the middle. If it's plus in the middle, our life is much easier. Excuse me, if it's plus on the end, our life is much easier because we know the signs are going to be the same. Yeah. Because now I can look and say, hey, it's plus. Oh, the signs have to be the same. They're both that sign.
Oh wait.
Yeah, if it's plus, the signs are always going to be whatever the sign in the middle is. They're going to be the same. So I get this back out. So you're like, okay, so now what? As far as, okay, the 48, so what am I looking for? When the signs are the same, we're looking to add. So the two numbers that I choose have to add up to 16. So I'm like, no. Nope. Nope. 16, the middle number. 4 and 12. And I don't have to worry the 12 here, the 4 here, but it doesn't matter when the signs are the same. It only matters if the signs are different. Once I get here, and I'll start saying this now before the video even finishes, this is going to be one of those lessons that's critical. Even if you're hating things and it's frustrating you, that you keep going and keep practicing until you see that you're getting some answers right. Because like I said, this ain't going away for like years. Forget about this unit. Like, yeah, this isn't going to go bye-bye. So we've got to make sure.
So how do you know when to make it add up?
Sure. Okay, let's do this. So when you're trying to figure out that middle portion and figure out, okay, so what am I doing here? If the signs are the same, okay, we're going to be adding the numbers together. What do I add to get there? If the signs are different, the question changes to, you know, how far apart are the two numbers from each other. So plus plus minus minus, add them up. That's what you're looking for in the chart. If it's plus minus, it's almost like you're subtracting instead. You're seeing how far apart they are.
Wait, so is number 2 how far apart it is? I'm not like on notes.
Oh, on this one. So this is a how far apart because, yeah, that negative, once those signs change, you know, multiply to 20, they're 1 apart from each other. Yes. You're confused on 8? Okay, let's take a look. It's one nice thing with this is we're kind of communicating back and forth. We can see. Okay, so let's get our stuff labeled. Our parentheses and our X's. Okay, first thing. My C value is plus. So the signs are going to be the same. Okay, what sign am I using? I'm using the sign of the middle number. So these are both. Yes. If the C value is plus, these are going to be the same. They're either both going to be plus or they're both going to be minus. And the middle sign is going to tell you which one. Because then, let's see here. I get on the screen, I can. 1 plus 21 ain't getting me to 10. 3 and 7 can because -3 plus -7 is -10. It is the middle number. And -3 times -7 is +21. It's the number on the end. There's always a way I can double check to be sure that I'm doing it correctly. I just got to be patient enough to stick with it. That's going to be the deal. So as I've said, I'm going to say it again. Practice. It may not make perfect, but woo, does it make this a lot better. So we will be hovering here tomorrow again. But even like I've said before, even if you just do the evens or odds on both sides, just to get that bit of practice before you go into tomorrow, it'll be better. Ask a neighbor for help. Work with a neighbor. Check some answers on Classroom. I even got a key up here. Ask me. I'll look over questions. I don't care. But practice it, and it will make it so